The U.S. says it will send an additional 1,000 troops and resources to the Middle East. The outgoing acting Defense Secretary Shanahan and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo say the deployment is in response to hostile behavior by Iranian forces. Correspondent Wyatt Goolsby joins us with details from the State Department. Good evening, Wyatt.
Good evening, Lauren. Secretary Mike Pompeo is back here in Washington tonight after traveling to Tampa, Florida. He met with top military officials at the U.S. Central Command and Special Operations Command. Pompeo and defense officials agree the additional troops are not a buildup to war, but they are aimed at deterring Iranian aggression.
We all have to remember this isn't just 2.5 years or 5 years. This is 40 years of Iranian activity that has led us to this point. And to reestablish deterrence is a challenge, but one that I know the Trump administration is up to.
Secretary Mike Pompeo says the plan to send 1,000 more troops to the Middle East comes after careful coordination by the State and Defense Departments. The Pentagon also released new images of what they say was an Iranian attack on 2 oil tankers last week. One image taken by a U.S. Navy helicopter overhead reportedly shows an Iranian Revolutionary Guard boat moments after they removed an unexploded mine from one tanker. More images of the leftover mine and a hole in the hull from additional blasts. Iran's ambassador to the U.K. denies his country is responsible. He says tensions between Iran and the U.S. are rapidly escalating.
Unfortunately, we are heading towards a confrontation, which is very serious for everybody in the region.
Iran's President Hassan Rouhani says his country is not seeking a confrontation with the U.S., but he vows Iran will withstand mounting U.S. pressure. The State Department condemned the Iranian government this week after it announced it's boosting enrichment of uranium and will soon pass the limit of what it's allowed to stockpile per a 2015 nuclear deal. Iran hopes the threat will break Europe's will to impose tough economic sanctions. Earlier this evening, Secretary Pompeo met with a top European Union official here at the State Department. The EU is also considering how to respond to the alleged attack on the oil tankers. Also tonight, the Secretary of State is hosting a dinner with members of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, where they're likely to talk about Iran at length. Lauren?
Correspondent Wyatt Goolsby reporting from the State Department. Thank you, Wyatt. Democrats are demanding answers about why the president is sending these troops to the Middle East. Capitol Hill correspondent Ytsync-en continues our team coverage.
Look, this is very serious.
Senators from both parties say they're worried about Iran.
Well, everybody should be concerned. Conflict breaking out, something we don't want to do, shouldn't happen.
The risks of a conflict are real. But make no mistake, they're being driven by Tehran's decisions to resort to violence. And that includes what the Secretary of State has described as a blatant assault on international shipping.
Secretary Pompeo accuses Iran of attacking 2 tankers near the Persian Gulf. Republicans tell us they support the president sending more troops to that area.
Should Congress have a vote before any military action?
I think what the president's doing now is well within authorities. If it escalates to a real conflict, then that's a discussion we'd have when that occurs.
To quote President Ronald Reagan, it's peace through strength. I support the president's efforts.
Democrats ask, what exactly are those efforts?
Nobody knows what their plans are and why they're doing what.
We have to make sure there's a strategy. I think that's what's been lacking here. I think we'd be in better shape if we kept the commitments in the Iran nuclear agreement. We stopped their program for a couple of years now. Now they're beginning to build up and potentially enrich uranium, and that's, I think, a result of pulling out.
So I'm very concerned. I wish the president would engage in some direct diplomacy, or the Secretary of State, rather than making threats, and move a process where we can start some negotiation rather than negotiating with warships and mines and missiles.
A State Department diplomat briefed Republican senators during their luncheon today. Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana was there, and he says he learned nothing new. Now, Democrats turned down a similar invitation. Senator Chuck Schumer says he wants to hear directly from the president. He says the president should scrap tonight's campaign speech and instead speak about Iran. Lauren?
Capitol Hill correspondent Ytsync-en, thank you. Jason?